Let's start the show talking about the fight that's edging ever closer, or if you want to describe it as a fight in terms of what people think it's likely to be, which is Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. Where are you? Having worked with Anthony, and we'll talk about that later in the show, where are you on this particular fight?
Obviously, I think financially is a fight that anyone would take, to be honest. In terms of boxing, I'm not sure. But obviously, after that last fight that unfortunately he lost against Danny Dubois, I think it's probably like a good step up, see with the new team. And I'm expecting probably an early finish if the fight goes ahead.
Do you think the Jake Paul phenomenon, and it is a phenomenon because I don't know what this kid's famous for, but he's famous for making money now.
Yeah.
And you have to give all the respect in the world for that. Do you think he's good for boxing? When you look at the boxing world that you inhabit, it's your livelihood, it's your love. Do you think the Jake Pauls of the world are good for boxing?
For my personal opinion, I think he's good in terms of for other fighters to maybe fight for better purposes. It brings that exposure to boxing. Personally, in terms of understanding the dangers of the sport, I don't think so, because I haven't seen him in an actual fight yet. And having Anthony Joshua in front of you, I really hope it doesn't go to that end, but it's a very, very dangerous fight.
You actually just said that if the fight goes ahead, do you believe then that this fight won't go ahead? Because there's many people that do.
I mean, I think it goes ahead, but I mean, I don't know what Jake Paul is thinking, to be honest, because you're talking about someone that is 2 times heavyweight champion of the world. Is someone that actually have got a one-punch knockout power. He understands range, he understands positioning, he understands how to set you up. He's a bigger man, he's a stronger man. I don't know where, for me, yes, that I'm thinking the worst, but I want to be positive, and I really hope that both of them goes home safe with plenty of money. But looking statistically and the professionalism of the sport, I don't see the fight going past 2 rounds.
Well, interestingly, when we're recording this show, it's been announced, and it'll come after, our show will come out afterwards, that Jake Paul is doing an announcement this afternoon at, I think, something like 2 o'clock our time. So who knows what that's likely to be. Interestingly, I spoke to Eddie Hearn when the fight was first announced to try and get the take of what this really was. And his belief, Eddie's belief, and whether you subscribe to Eddie's views on this, is that he genuinely believes that Jake Paul doesn't know what he's walking into, doesn't seem to have a regard for what he's walking into, is slightly deluded about it, thinks that Anthony's a bit chinny, and thinks he has a chance in this fight. Now, I don't know about you boys, but unless you've lived under a stone, you know that Anthony Joshua can punch. The only debate about Anthony Joshua is not the physicality of Anthony Joshua, it's the psychology of him. There's going to be no psychological damage to Anthony Joshua when he walks in against Jake Paul. This has jeopardy written all over it, doesn't it?
I think from Jake Paul's side, I think
For Jake Paul, physically?
Yeah, I think that Jake Paul, though, is actually deluded enough to believe that if he gets inside, that he's got...
Is he?
He must be, Simon, otherwise the fight wouldn't be going ahead. He truly believes that he can win this fight. It's like, he doesn't realise that there's levels to this game. And it doesn't matter, where Anthony Joshua is positioned.
Paul, mustn't he? He must. He's not blind, is he?
But he can be deluded.
One thing this kid is not stupid, is he?
Well, he's stupid enough to get in the ring with Anthony Joshua.
I mean, he's stupid in a good way, but I'm actually praising him. He's stupidly deluded in the fact that he thinks he can do anything. That's probably why he's as successful as he is. I think with Jake Paul at the moment, though, you've started, so you've got to finish. He's put the bluff on. He's put the, I will beat him, I'll fight him, I'm going to fight Canelo, beat Canelo in 4 years. Well, all of a sudden, now you're in with Joshua and he's telling everyone's going to win. I think the first head-to-head that they had where Jake Paul's like looking up and then looking down, I think like that's when it'll have dawned on him, like, what am I doing here? But it's going to dawn on him when the first jab lands. You've felt them jabs on the mitt, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've seen them jabs up close with small gloves, and I know the damage that can be done as you do and you do. It's absolutely daunting the task that's ahead of Jake Paul, and I think it will hit home when the first jab lands clean on his nose.
Yeah.
As I said, if it happens, the only way I'm saying if it happens is I can't see him actually leaving the dressing room. It's gonna dawn on him in the dressing room. Honestly, it's a big issue.
Can he run away from Anthony Joshua? Can he run away for long enough in this fight to be able to make it look before he gets hit?
No.
Because Eddie was talking about the fact that he thought that he would get him out there with a cluster of punches without the big shot that was going to be done to Ngannou. He's not going to have one of those moments because it's not going to be. Jake Paul's going to not be that stupid enough to put himself on offer for that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Jake Paul is good enough to stay away from Anthony Joshua for even 3 minutes. Never mind 3 rounds. I don't think. Obviously, he's not from a boxing background, so he won't have that ring IQ of knowing where you are, backing up to the ropes. You can sense the both ropes beside you. You know you're getting close to the corner, so you take a step out. He hasn't quite got that just yet. And the relatively short period of time that he has been boxing, he's done great, by the way, to get to the stage he's at. But there's great for a YouTuber and there's great for a 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. He's an Olympic gold medalist, and that's where he's going to find out, I think.
Where are you? I mean, I said it a moment ago, which is Jake Paul's quote about Anthony Joshua being chinny. I've said repeatedly, without wanting to be disrespectful, having never laced any gloves and can't do one scintilla of the things that you boys can do, that I always felt that when Anthony Joshua got hit again, despite the build-up after Jermaine Franklin, Robert Helenius, Otto Wallin and Ngannou, that I thought he would get stopped or have challenges. This assertion that Jake Paul's making that Anthony Joshua is chinny, is there, I mean, I know you're going to be respectful and courteous to the person you work with. Can you see any evidence of that in Anthony?
I mean, obviously people talks about, like, obviously from the Klitschko going into the Ruiz, going into Dubois. Obviously there is questions about it. I mean, how I consider someone chinny is someone that actually, the moment you hit the person basically just like doesn't come back. It's just chinny. For me, is someone chinny that the moment he gets hit, he doesn't get up. And I think AJ has shown character in terms of like being in the back, being on the floor, stand up and winning the fights. So I don't particularly say is chinny in that sense. Even with we've seen it against Dillian White as well. So personally, I don't think he's chinny.
I agree.
But he's only got up once, though, hasn't he? I mean, he got knocked down. The only person that's knocked him down, he's got up and won a fight against when he's been knocked down, was Klitschko.
Yeah.
So when I mean, is the definition of chinny, for the layman in me, is the definition of chinny someone that doesn't get up, or is it someone that can be put down, gets up, but still gets knocked down again?
No, I think that he's shown character, as Angel said there, to get up. Yeah, he has lost those fights, but he has got up. But we're talking about world-class punches here. We're talking about levels here. When you're talking about chinny, you go, all right, is Anthony Joshua, the question could be, is Anthony Joshua chinny at world level?
Good
right?
point.
So is he chinny at Jake Paul's level? The answer is categorically no.
And listen, by the way, the people that did it to Joshua, Andy, don't let the belly fool you with Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz can punch. He's a very talented fighter, Andy Ruiz. I've always really liked his style, and if he was a bit slimmer and a bit fitter, he'd be a big problem, to be honest with you.
100%.
But as the boys just said, then the levels of punching, Jake Paul might be okay knocking out a Tyrone Woodley or someone in a former MMA fighter with a big loaded up shot. Anthony Joshua's going to see that shot coming. People used to say it about, I'm going to use 2 fighters with the same trainer. I'm not criticising the trainer one bit, Adam Bood. David Haye and George Groves were similar type fighters in the fact that they could be hurt. And some people used to call them chinny, and they were categorically not. They could be hurt, but they had some powers of recovery, and they'd always find a way to come back. I've seen David Haye in some spars where he's being stiffened up by a big punching heavyweight. But he comes back and finishes the round and carries on. There's being chinny at certain levels, and there's getting caught and being able to recover. And I get what you're saying about Joshua. He hasn't recovered much, but I don't think he's chinny just yet, especially at this level.
You're talking about being hurt there, and again, we're talking about world level. They get hurt at world level, not coming through that British, Commonwealth, European level. They're not getting hurt at that level.
Exactly.
They're taking those shots. We're talking about world class, and there's a big difference
well. With big punches.
We're being led to believe, Angel, that Anthony Joshua's future is that he's going to have big fights next year and potentially lead himself towards a world title. One of my bugbears about this particular fight, I'm not in the camp of begrudging a man making a significant amount of money. Every one of those buggers that said this is a joke would have gone to the same place because the money is so ridiculous that Netflix are putting on an offer. But it doesn't lend itself to preparing himself for big fights, does it? I think that part of the reasons why Fury in part, wasn't able to contend with Usyk was the build-up toward the Usyk fights was lesser than opponents that were easy for Fury to deal with. And so when he got in against Usyk, he had to go to a level that he hadn't been in the last 3 or 4 fights. There's an element of that, my view. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I agree with you. But also, looking back from the previous performance of AJ, I think there is other sort of like psychological, physical elements that goes into the fight. I mean, I've got 2 ex-professional fighters here, so they know what I'm talking about in terms of like the lights, being back again in that ring. One thing from training, one thing from sparring, one thing from everything right in the training camp, that sometimes does not translate to the actual fight. So it would be good in terms of like psychologically, I think it would be good for AJ to see this fight, go through it. I think it will somehow give him some kind of like momentum, because he also had momentum once he beat Ngannou previously, and then maybe going into the bigger fights going into next year.
You just touched upon a subject that I always find quite interesting with Anthony, which is the psychology of him, because he's a physical specimen. No one debates that Anthony can operate at the highest level physically. There's always been this assertion and inference that psychologically he struggles with certain things. And, you know, I've heard fighters, other trainers tell me about Anthony waiting to fight for defend his world title and talking to another trainer about what should I do in this fight? What would you have me do? And you're thinking, wow, haven't you seeded that in your own thinking? You would have worked with that. What's the psychology of Anthony?
I would say he is like a sponge. And sometimes that can be against you, because sometimes you might have a clear picture in terms of how do I beat this opponent in front of me. But sometimes, and I doubt myself, even myself from that, because also sometimes as a coach, I might go to different coaches, what do you think of this fight? I'm gonna try to implement these tactics, what do you think? And sometimes when you have all these different views, it brings you a bit of doubt to your own ability.
You come out with no definite view,
so that's what I would say, like AJ in that sense. Sometimes people might say he's good in terms of like asking questions to several people, but looking at him in this case, I don't think it does him any favors. That's why, for me, I agree in the camp that he is right now. I really like the camp. I have spoken to him before the fight.
Camp?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's quite military.
Yeah.
Is you come in here, you do this, and this is how it is. Yeah. And I think it's going to be good. And I really hope.
Be good for him.
I think it will be good for him.
Do you think with Anthony that he has a clear view of himself as a fighter? Because I get the impression that when you say someone's a sponge, it means they're susceptible to other people's thinking. Because there's one thing, sense checking something. It's one thing saying, this is what I think I'm going to do. These are the reasons why I'm going to do it. There's another thing, not having a clear view of it, and you're really needing someone else's opinion. I get the impression when someone describes Anthony as a sponge, it's because there's not a clear vision of himself. You want to jump in on Paul? Did you want to?
Sorry.
That's all right, Paul.
I think this, I don't mean this in a negative way. I overthink a lot. If I'm ringside at a fight, if we're all at a big fight and there's a very, very close round and I'm scoring it for television or something, I'm going to turn around and say, I'm going to score it first. But I still want to know what you all think, because I respect your opinions, because you know your stuff as well. Just so I'm sort of not on the wrong page completely, let's say. I think AJ, being the way he is now, I've never been in the gym with him working. I've watched him training in one session. I've never had the luxury of doing that. So Angel knows him a lot more than I do in this, but I know him temporarily, and the temperament, of him is he wants to always be seen as humble and be humble, but he always wants to learn and get better. Yeah. So he will ask the opinions of other people just for a bit of reassurance, because we're all a bit insecure on things like, as I said, like scoring fights and that. I think he always needs sort of a little bit of a second, you're doing right, you're on the right track, and if you're not on the right track and you think it's wrong, then he can change it a bit. But
that's been from day one, though. That's been from the amateurs. AJ's always, that's his character, right? So it's not something that's just crept in and people are saying, is there self-doubt there? He's lack of confidence in his own ability. He's always been that guy. And that might be lack of confidence in his own ability.
If there is a slight bit of self-doubt, it's fine. That's okay. That doesn't matter. Everyone gets it.
Even when you reach world title level. Even when it's been reaffirmed. We're all on journeys. When we're younger and we all go through experiences, we learn, we get more confident. And when you become successful, you become stronger in your belief system. You don't need second opinions. So it's an interesting one that he perhaps still does. Look, tell me about your journey with him. I mean, you worked with him on how many fights?
From the Ruiz 2 till Usyk 2.
Right.
So we had to have like several fights. Obviously, I know him as a person. I know him as a fighter. I know him inside out. Looking back, maybe in the moment, as I said, like we all learn, it's a journey. You know, professional boxing as a fighter is a journey. As a coach, is a journey. Looking back, maybe I should have been a bit more stricter in terms of time. But also sometimes as a coach, you have to also think as well, like, what if he underperform? What if like, and we try our best sometimes to please the fighters in a sense of like keep them comfortable. Yeah. But then sometimes you bring that comfortability to other fighters and you don't bring the best out of them.
What did you inherit? I mean, Ruiz 2, when you picked up Ruiz 2, I mean, some people would say that he won that fight by sitting behind a jab, when they expected him to go into that fight and right the wrongs of the expectations they had of the first fight. So what did you inherit? Because obviously we've heard so much about the first Ruiz fight. The fact he was supposed to fight Miller. Miller drops out. Ruiz is a late replacement. No one's expecting Ruiz. Ruiz psychologically perhaps plays the game of being a second-class citizen, just pleased to be here, can I touch the belt sort of nonsense, and then goes into a fight. Anthony goes into this particular fight, we see psychological potential meltdowns, so-called anxiety attacks, and all of that's gone on in the background. So what did you inherit when you land in Anthony Joshua's corner for Ruiz 2?
I mean, a lot of experience because I've been on that fight. I've been alongside Ron McCracken, you know, Joby Clayton as well. Just learning from these.
But now you're the man. You're the voice. Coaches. But you're the voice.
On my voice, I'm talking from the Usyk too, because that's when I actually went with him as the main man. From the Usyk 1, I think he lost a lot of confidence. The way I see that fight for me was like, I had to bring this guy somehow, his confidence back again. So one of the things that I done every day in the gym, we used to have a massive screen in the gym, and I used to put him the best knockouts of him. And I used to remember saying to him, what will it take me and you to bring that guy back again? And remember, it's a loss psychology. After a loss, is you have to rebuild. It's not just physically, but it's also psychologically. And it's a fight that is a lot at stake. And remember, Anthony Joshua started boxing at 18 years of age. He's not someone that has been like Usyk from 5, 6, 7 years of age. And you always playing catch up. What did I learn from that fight? Maybe just like, for me, I should stick to this is what we're doing, and we do it this way, or there is no way. But at the same time, as a coach, you also have them doubts in terms of like, what if I really implement myself and this is going to be the way, and I might lose the fight, because you might lose the fight psychologically. You're having that chance. And it's a lot at stake in the fight. Looking back, there were a lot of injuries that people probably won't know. The fight got delayed, then it was one knee, one shoulder, one elbow, and they had to be doing runs where he was only using the jab, then another runs where he was only using the right hand. And it's difficult to work alongside that. So for me, the experience is great. And I know a lot of critics come onto me because obviously we had Robert Kaseya in the corner with me. But at the end of the day, we have a man that we work really well, me and Robert. And I'm sure that if he would see any weaknesses in me or in my training, I'm sure that he would come up to me and say, yo, Angel, we're not doing this way, we're not doing that way. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot from that fight. And I got to say, like, people might go and opinion, oh, he backs AJ up, but I have to say, looking at all the heavyweights, is the more complete heavyweight. And I still believe in a way that I hope that even himself gets to see the person that I believe he should have become.
Do you guys as a group, I mean, this is a generalistic statement, do you think he ever recovered from the loss to Ruiz? I mean, when he fought Ruiz 2, I mean, let's be honest about Ruiz 2, he spent more time in the larder than he did in the gym. You know, and then you look at the beating of Kubrat Pulev, who was 40 years of age, and he should deal with that. He goes into Usyk and fights the completely wrong fight against Usyk that ultimately none of us could fathom, could we? Why he thought the fight that Usyk would be best served in fighting him in. Do you think there's a perception, and I'm asking a question without any arsehole cleverness behind it, that he never really recovered from the loss of Ruiz? It took something away from him that he's never gained back again.
I think that psychologically that happens to fighters, and I think that, definitely there is an element of that happens to Anthony Joshua without a doubt. You know, some fighters do never recover from a knockout. Some fighters can pull it behind them and just get on, but with AJ, because he's an overthinker, and he thinks so much. That's always psychologically in the back of his head that I don't get caught. So he loses what is his main asset, which is that rawness and that toughness and that power punching. Because we saw that in the, in the build-up to the Ruiz 1 fight. And you go, when you get knocked out now you're starting to second guess yourself.
He didn't get knocked out, and that
leaves
got
yourself...
waved off.
Huh?
He didn't get knocked out against Ruiz. He got waved off, didn't he?
All right, so it's classed as a knockout.
I was never knocked out.
No, you know what I mean.
All right, but what I'm saying is there's psychological damage that's been done.
Yeah.
But it's still down your records as a KO.
I know.
Whether you beat the count or not, it's the same thing. But even then, I remember the first time I ever got stopped. Great shot. It was George Groves. It was a great shot, right round the side of my elbow, my hands. Didn't see it. Perfect on the side of my chin. I remember looking at the ref, thinking, like, why is the ref spinning? It was me, so I was gone. My legs were gone. Never been it like that in my life. I've been it well harder before and after, but just perfect on the button. All my ears ringing, pins and needles all over your body, proper concussion. And after that, I remember we went sparring. That was the November. We went sparring, January, February in a wild card. And I got in with Peter Quillen. I remember thinking, like, the kid can punch him. And Joe, my trainer, was like, take it easy on the back foot, first proper spar. I was like, I'm all right, don't worry. Like, I remember we had a sports psychologist at the time. She said, have you ever been it before like that? Yeah. Was it okay? Yeah. After? Yeah. Then what are you worrying for? Like, it was a shot that was a perfect shot. But you're still doubting yourself every single spar you have, every single round you have. And I bet you the first time you get in, which I did, with the small gloves on, you're worrying, you're nervous because it's natural, it's normal.
Yes,
it happens. It's when it doesn't come back. That's the problem. It came back after it when he's been okay. He's gone in and he's engaged again and he's okay. It's if he was still standoffish and still, where we use the term gun shy, that's when it's a big problem. And I don't think he's gun shy because of the knockouts or the stoppages that he had.
What did you think of, Angel, what did you think of the Dubois fight?
I think he probably maybe doubted himself in a sense. He didn't fully believe in himself. Looking back at that fight, I don't know. I mean, we either take a point where being critical about his shape, his footwork, where he was stepping, or maybe more objective in terms of like what could happen in the camp, what sort of questions was he asking other people as well, maybe doubting Ben in this sense or not doubting him, because sometimes I remember like me being with him saying, this is the approach of the fight, but it's when you start asking the other people and other people give you different sort of like strategies and you should be doing this way, you should be doing that way, it might create a bit of doubt in his head. And he didn't went there just to be himself.
Were you surprised? Because one of the things we all saw in the build-up, didn't we? We all felt that the circumstances were set up, that Anthony Joshua was being expected to be wheeled in and anointed. There was 96,000 fans there. They were all expecting him to do a number on Daniel Dubois. And in the build-up to it, Anthony was a little bit aggressive in face-offs. He was very self-assured, very confident. No one saw any evidence of anything other than an assured performance. Yet when he was walking into the ring, Daniel Dubois looked like a man ready to go, and Anthony Joshua looked like a man going to the gallows.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by that? Could you see what was going on, knowing him as you do?
Yes.
Looking at him walking in, were you immediately thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah, I kind of like would have seen that, because if you look at the first Ruiz one, you could have, in terms of like the walking through onto the arena, onto the ring, you could see sort of like the same body language. And that's when I was like, these guys, I'm not sure. And then, but as I said, one thing is do the whole camp, being aggressive. You're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. And then the other thing is when you get hit in the ring, that's where you have to really come up and do something different. And I think, as I said, he showed up that character of himself, and he was supposed to win. And I remember him asking me as well, like, what do you think of the fight? Please send me some videos, because I remember I think Fraser went to spar Dubois.
Right.
But I said, because I've been in Ben's shoes, and I said, Josh, listen to the trainer, just to one person, and stick to the plan.
Right.
Believe it, don't ask anybody else, and just go ahead with it.
Sorry to interrupt you. This is the thing, that gym, it isn't one person, and I'm not sticking the boot into them. I've said my piece on the AJ Dubois. I think the tactics were terrible. I think the advice was even worse, and ultimately got him knocked out. But that gym isn't one person, is it? It's a few different people.
Few different people.
Yeah, but
there's obviously me, there's Ben,
Different trainers work with different fighters, though.
Yeah, I understand that.
Ben will be the one giving the instruction. You might have, like, say, Barry Smith there or something like that, who will be assisting, like in any gym. But Ben's the one that is the mouthpiece.
Yeah, the voice.
He's the voice. So, and then Barry will be a head coach for whoever.
I agree.
And that's the way it works.
I agree, but the advice on the night, what we heard, which has been the big sticking point, the talking point, I've actually had a chat with Lee Wiley, who I think is a nice fella, to be fair, and we've had a chat over it. The advice from the corner, the voice I heard wasn't Ben Davison, it was Lee's, and this is what we said.
That's
in the gym, it's going to be the same. It's likely going to be the same. It's not just one voice. It's a group and it's a team effort. And listen, they're doing very well as a team, by the way, in every respect to them. But for me, if AJ works better with one voice, then he needs one voice.
He needs one voice,
And the one voice for a long time when he was at his best coming through was always McCracken.
Yeah.